Hi guys, it's Marcy Fiorillo here, and today we're going to work through Chapter 7, Working with Type in your Illustrator text. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to do the following: create area and point type, convert between area and point type, import text, create columns of text, change text attributes, modify text with the Touch Type tool, create and edit paragraph and character styles, copy and apply text attributes by sampling type, reshape text with a warp, create type on a path and on shapes, wrap type around an object, and create text outlines. Text as a design element plays a major role in your illustrations. Like other objects, type can be painted, scaled, rotated, and more. In this lesson, we're going to discover how to create basic text and interesting text effects. The first thing to understand is that there are two different kinds of type in an Illustrator file. The first one is called point type. And point type is a horizontal or vertical line of text that begins where you click and expands as you enter characters. Each line of text is independent and it doesn't wrap to the next line unless you hit a paragraph return. So this is created by choosing your type tool and just clicking somewhere on your page. So you click and you have created your point type beginning spot, and then you can just type what you want to say. Now the interesting thing about point type is it is almost like an object itself. So we can click on our selection tool. Notice that the entire thing that I just wrote is now selected. If I use the bounding boxes, I can stretch this as if it were a square or an oval or any other shape that I just created. I can elongate it, I can shrink it, I can do whatever I want just as if it were its own shape. Now the difference is if I click on the type tool, and in this time, instead of clicking, I'm going to click and drag an area. So now this becomes the other kind of type. It's called area type. An area type uses the boundaries of an object to control the flow of characters. This can be an already created shape that you're going to fill with type, or you can draw your own text box like I've just done. Once the text reaches the boundary, it's going to automatically wrap to fit inside the defined area. So entering text in this way is useful when you want to create one or more paragraphs, or you have another document that you want to fill in with your type. So I will show you what I'm talking about. See how it wrapped down to fit the bounding box. Now, if I use a selection tool like I did on the other text that I created, notice that this bounding box looks a little bit different. We have ports on either side, the beginning and the end of the text box. You're going to learn how to connect these ports to other areas of type on your page. This is helpful to thread writing that will go and continue from column to column or areas around your page, and you're going to learn how to connect those as you work through the lesson. But notice how if I change the bounding box, it doesn't do anything to what I've already drawn. It just changes the bounding box, and therefore the type will fill in and wrap around to fit the bounding box. So I'm not stretching the words or the letters at all. I'm just changing the size of the bounding box. Much of the rest of the chapter deals with how to thread those text boxes, how to apply styles to the text boxes, and it's all actually very useful if you have a lot of text in your design. For example, if it's a magazine page or something like that. What I want to show you next is how to warp text. So you can create some great design effects by warping text into different shapes using envelopes. You can make an envelope out of an object on your artboard, or you can use a preset warp shape or a mesh grid as an envelope. As we explore warping with envelopes, you'll also discover that you can use envelopes on any object except graphs, guides, or linked objects. Okay, so let's get rid of that and create some more point type. So remember, we just click and start typing. Select what you just typed, and up in your control panel you're going to go all the way over to the right and you'll see this sort of windshield looking thing. If you hover over it, you can see that it says make envelope. So click on it and the warp options are going to come up. You always want to hit preview so you can see exactly what is happening to your design. And you can see under style there's many different ones to choose from. You know, arcing up this way, arcing with the bottom part straight. Fisheye is also a good one. Inflate, squeeze, there's all kinds of ones you can choose from. Let's choose arc just to start off with. Now you can change the angle of the bend by using this slider, so you can make it slightly less warped or more warped depending on what you want to do. Play around with this, choose some of the different styles, and you can see all the fun things that you can create with type. The next thing we're going to look at is how to work with type on a path. In addition to having text in point and type areas, you can also have type along a path. Text can flow along the edge of an open or closed path and can lead to some really creative ways to display text. I've already drawn a path here. In your homework assignment there is a black line that follows the monkey's tail. Now it's important to keep in mind that once you put type on this path, the path itself disappears. That's why you have to make sure you click on the black line of the monkey's tail, not the monkey's tail itself. To create type on a path, you can either just hover your type tool cursor over a path. Notice it automatically converts to type on a path when I get close to a path, or you can actually go over and change to the type on a path tool. Wherever I click is where the start of my text is going to be. So I'm going to click right here and start typing. Notice that the text follows the shape of the path that it is on. You can then move that type on that path anywhere you want. So with it selected, you'll go and hover your cursor around the front part of it, and notice when I get that little straight line with an arrow, that means I can move it. And so if I click and drag, I can slide that text wherever I want on that path. Notice that the path itself disappears, only the type remains. You can also create type on a closed path. So let's get rid of what we just did and let's draw a circle to put some type on. So I would like no fill. I would like the stroke to be black just so I can see it, but it will disappear just like our path did last time once we put the type on it. Okay, so draw my circle. And now the same thing applies. I'm going to go over and get my type on a path tool and click on the path and start typing. And voila, it goes around the closed circle. Now the cool thing about closed circle is you can then move that type and change the options on it. Just as we did with the type on the open path, we can move type on the closed path to a different position. So we want to select it, move our cursor till we get the straight line with the arrow, and then click and drag, and we can spin that around the circle. However, there's also some other things that we can do similar to the options on the type of the open path. So if you go up to type on a path, type on a path options, it'll open up this window where you can change some things about this type. Remember, we always want the preview to be checked so we can see what we're doing. So currently the effect is a rainbow, and that means it's sitting on top of the line that we created. You can also flip it, or you can change it to any of these different options. You can also align it to the path differently. It can either be on the baseline, it can be centered, descender, or an ascender. The last thing I want to show you is how to create text outlines. Converting text to outlines means converting text into vector outlines that you can edit and manipulate as you would any other graphic object. Text outlines are useful for changing the look of large display text type, but they are rarely useful for body text or other type of small sizes. The file recipient doesn't need to have your fonts installed to open and view the file correctly. When you create outlines from text, you should consider that text as no longer editable. Also, bitmap fonts and outline projected fonts cannot be converted to outlines, and outlining text that is less than 10 points in size is not recommended. When type is converted to outlines, the type loses its hints. Instructions built into the outline fonts to adjust their shape to display or print optimally at many sizes. You must also convert all type in a selection to outlines. You cannot convert a single letter within a type object. So let's select what we just did here and get rid of it and go to our type tool. I'm going to click and start typing. I'm going to select the type. I'm going to go up to type and create outlines. Now you can see that this particular type is no longer editable. If I use the type tool and try to click in here, it doesn't recognize it and it will just create a new type. However, now I can treat these objects as shapes versus type, and I can do all kinds of fun things to them, as we will soon learn. That's it for this week. Next week we'll look into layers and how to keep our projects organized.